This video contains spoilers for Project Hail Mary the book, Project Hail Mary the movie, Outer Wilds, and the Outer Wilds DLC. These are all things that I think are best experienced with as little knowledge about them as possible, so if you continue watching this and then get mad at me for spoilers, it's not my fault. In the words of Markiplier, space is so cool. 10 years on from him initially saying that, and the song being made of it, and then like a reprise of that song being made, it still holds true. So I heard that Project Hail Mary was being made into a movie back in August or so, and this was one of the rare occasions where hearing about something made me immediately go out and read or watch it. Usually I sit around knowing I should watch something but never doing anything about it, and then I end up still not having seen K-pop Demon Hunters 9 months after its release. But Project Hail Mary, I basically immediately went out and bought the book to read before the movie. I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine invite me to an early showing of the movie as well, and I'm gonna be honest, if she hadn't done that, I'd probably be in the same situation I'm normally in, which is knowing I should go see the movie in theaters and then just not doing that. It's a problem, I know. I'm trying to get better at it. Anyways, I was able to go watch this early in IMAX on 70mm film, and I feel like every time I go watch a movie in theaters, I remember why people do that, and then immediately forget afterwards. The movie was fantastic. Seeing some of those shots on big screen was incredible, especially the ones where they're above Adrian. I'll give you guys a brief rundown of the plot in case you're watching this without having seen the movie, which if you are, I don't know why you're doing that. Please stop the video and then go watch the movie and then come back here. Our astronaut in Project Hail Mary is Ryland Grace, who wakes up in space with no memory of who he is or how he got there. He recovers his memory as time goes along and learns that he's headed to a distant star, Tau Ceti, to figure out why an alien species called astrophage is causing our sun to dim. He meets another alien while he's out in this foreign solar system who he calls Rocky. Turns out that Rocky's star is having the same issues that ours is, so they team up to try and save both of their stars. Eventually, Grace remembers that he was forced to be on the ship, as well as it being a suicide mission for him. He and Rocky end up discovering a predator for the astrophage, which they call Tau'amoeba, and then they shoot off to their respective homeworlds. Rocky ended up having extra astrophage that Grace could use to get back to Earth. Grace realizes that the Tau'amoeba is able to get to the astrophage on board and eat it, leaving Rocky unable to get back home. Grace turns around to go save Rocky, and they end up on Rocky's planet at the end of the movie. Now, please go read the book or watch the movie. There is a lot more that happens here, and this was very, very pared down. Again, I thought the movie was fantastic, and sure, it's pretty long at 2.5 hours, but none of it feels super slow to me. There were a lot of shots in this movie that were really, really cool, and they switched between past and present pretty seamlessly, which I feel like can be hard to do. The Potrovoscope scene and Adrian in general had to be made, at least in part, to earn some sort of visuals award, but like, I don't even care because it was just that good, and the music definitely added to that experience. It was incredible. There were also some parts where there was just complete background silence, which really underlined the tenser portions of the movie when they used it. I'm really glad they made use of the fact that they were in space to use that silence, because when they did, it was really, really well done. I really only had issues when the ship was in alarm mode and there were all those flashing lights. I'm not photosensitive, but it does get a little bit tricky to watch. It's accurate to what it would actually look like, and it makes for a fragmented viewing experience when Grace is injured and Rocky is moving him, which is definitely super interesting. I also think that Ryan Gosling did a really good job in this. He has really good chemistry with everyone, and he nails that like awkward, caring science teacher vibe. I especially liked his scenes at the very beginning with Carl, who I don't believe was in the book. Speaking of the book, I read it all the way back in September, back when I first heard people getting excited about the movie. If you take it on its own, the movie is very well done. Even if you've read the book, the movie is very well done. However, since I read the book, I have a little bit more context to certain things, and there were a few spots where I wish they had included a little bit more explanation, but I also totally get why they didn't. These things are definitely sort of minimal in the grand scheme of things that got cut, which we'll cover later. Number one for me was the Beatles. These are the little pods that Grace shoots off back to Earth before he goes and saves Rocky at the end of the movie. They're also named after the Beatles, like the band. These play a much bigger role in the book, being central to fixing a couple different emergencies that don't even happen in the movie. In the book, you also get some admittedly minor background info as to why they're named after the Beatles, which is nice. Number two is Rocky's extra fuel and their respective returns to their home planets. Now, they do mention that Rocky's species had no knowledge of relativity or radiation before they set out on their mission to Tau Ceti. This is an extremely minor nitpick in the face of the other things that got cut, like the Beatles or some of the other things, but I still feel like it got pretty de-emphasized in the movie. They mention that Rocky's species has no knowledge of relativity, but then they don't mention that that's why he has extra astrophage for Grace to get home. I can give it a pass since it's kind of implied, but I kind of wish they had given more explanation to it, but I also get why they didn't. And that sort of I wish there was more, but I get why there wasn't mentality covers a lot for me when this movie is already 2.5 hours long. The book is incredibly dense in detail. Experiments are all written out step by step, and personally, I really like that. Everything is written in a way that seems plausible, which kept me immersed and invested. It also feels like the science version of a murder mystery where you're sort of following along as somebody solves a bunch of problems, which is really fun. But you don't have the same storytelling tools in a movie as you do in a book. You can't have an internal monologue in a movie, and you can't have a montage in a book. Or if you did, they'd probably just feel off and weird. Because the book is in first person and there are so many explanations that need to happen to explain the science, I feel like adapting those explanations to ship logs made a lot of sense for the movie. The book is also dense with world building in its own way. It's just that the world that's being built is Project Hail Mary itself. In the book, there are these sort of auxiliary scientists, I guess you could call them. These are scientists that fill out the world, explain how things are getting done, and show the stakes that we're dealing with here. One of these specialists is a climatologist who they go to figure out how much time they have before things get really bad with the Earth cooling. Their answer is that they have 19 years before half the people on Earth will be dead. These stakes are built on continuously throughout the book, and in this case, they end up blowing up part of Antarctica to release the methane trapped in the ice and induce global warming. The sheer gravity of what they're dealing with doesn't come across as much in the movie as it does in the book. Again, I get why they cut all this from the movie. It would be 10 hours long if they didn't, and apparently the first cut was like 3 hours and 45 minutes long. It makes far more sense to just focus on Grace and Strat and have everything else happen implicitly in the background, especially since explaining all the science in a movie would be so boring, and that's coming from someone who likes science. The main thing that I don't get is what they did to Rocky. Don't get me wrong, he's great, but he gets done a little dirty in the movie compared to how he is in the book. One of the people I saw this with said he was almost dog-like, and another one of my friends described him as that fuck-ass rock dog. My friend would like to note that that statement was made in the context of, if that fuck-ass rock dog dies, I'm going to lose it, but still. I feel like the book also continually emphasizes Rocky's and his species' intelligence. Sure, they don't know about relativity or radiation, but they managed to make a solid form of a noble gas, xenon, which just isn't possible. The book also continually emphasizes how Rocky's intelligence is different to Grace's. Rocky's an engineer and Grace is a scientist. Rocky is really good at designing and physical things, and Grace is really good at biology and running tests. They complement each other. They also get way more frustrated at each other in the book, Rocky especially, and I think that removing that is part of what makes Rocky feel more dog-like in the movie. It's a little bit hard to explain, but book Rocky is a little bit more rough around the edges, pun intended. He's quite a bit more impatient with Grace's differences to himself, especially when it comes to their intelligence. There's a bit in the book where Grace notes that Rocky has a certain tone he takes when he's being snarky, and movie Rocky has basically zero snarkiness. You do spend much less time with Grace and Rocky in the movie than you do in the book, so I can get why they'd want to soften him to make sure that the audience has the same connection to movie Rocky as they do with book Rocky, but I think they could have done that without making him so, like, bubbly, almost. It's hard to explain, but it feels like they took book Rocky and hit him with like a 30% Gaussian blur. So the other thing was, while I was watching this movie, there were a few times when I get hit with deja vu like I was playing Outer Wilds. Most notably, this happened during the Petroboscope scene and the parts where they were above Adrian because, come on, obviously. So if you don't know what Outer Wilds is or haven't played it for yourself, I'm legally obligated to tell you to stop this video, go play it, complete it, and then come back here so you avoid spoilers, because otherwise the Outer Wilds Spoilers Defense Force has the legal authority to kill me, and I think they're outside my door right now. So if you're still watching after this, I am assuming you've either played it for yourself or are okay spoiling the single piece of media in existence where people still tag their spoilers extensively 6 years after its release. In Outer Wilds, you play as a young Hearthian, a semi-aquatic species found on the planet Timber Hearth. I'm going to be calling this character Hatchling since that's how a lot of the other Hearthians refer to them in-game. It's your first voyage to space as part of Outer Wilds Ventures, Timber Hearth's space exploration group. You begin exploring, and after 22 minutes, the sun explodes. You get a flashback of everything that happened in those last 22 minutes, and then you wake up at the campsite. You're stuck in a time loop. Throughout this time loop, you explore your solar system and learn more about the Nomai, a species from a different solar system that came to yours a long time ago, as well as the thing they were searching for, the eye of the universe. You also learn that it's not just your sun that's exploding, every star in the universe is, and in fact the entire universe is dying. Eventually you're able to use the Nomai's crashed ship to teleport to the eye of the universe and allow the death of the universe and the start of a new one to occur. I didn't really link Outer Wilds and Project Hail Mary until roughly the Petrovoscope scene in the Project Hail Mary movie, and then I didn't really think about how they were linked until I was driving home from my friend's house after the movie. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. On an extremely surface level, these two are pretty similar. The sun is dying and someone has to save it. Along the way, you meet an alien species, or at least a species alien to yourself that you learn from. You end up resigning yourself to your fate and changing the world because of it. They're also similar because Rocky is named Rocky and all the Hearthians are named after rocks, so that's another thing. Also completely inaccurate alien linguistics, that's also in both of them. Both of these are also these sort of natural situations taken to the extreme type stories. Stars do go supernova, just not all of them at once. Organisms need to eat and survive, but they don't become invasive on a galactic level. In both situations, it's something that's seemingly affecting the entire universe. But these stories are also almost foils to each other in certain ways. Sure, they both deal with these extreme galaxy or universe-wide threats, but the way they treat them is very, very different. In Project Hail Mary, Grace only has one chance to discover what he needs to at Tau Ceti. If he fails, that's it for both his and Rocky's worlds. It's super tense because the stakes are so high. In Outer Wilds, the stakes are a ton lower. You're in a time loop. If you screw up, there's always next loop to try something new. You can take as much time and as many loops as you need and do as many stupid things as you can think of to try and learn something new. In Project Hail Mary, Grace remembers nothing about his past, but the rest of Earth knows exactly what he needs to accomplish to save them. In Outer Wilds, the hatchling remembers everything from their past loops, but nobody else knows what's going on, aside from Gabbro, who's also in this time loop. None of them even know that the universe is ending, not even the hatchling at first. In Project Hail Mary, Grace and Rocky end up being able to save their worlds from complete destruction, and in Outer Wilds, you end up letting the universe move on. In neither story does the main character get a choice to be the one to make these big decisions either. Grace is drugged and sent into space by Strat, and the hatchling just happened to be the one that the Nomai statue looked at when it opens its eyes. Neither of them get to choose the prophecy, to steal a phrase from Percy Jackson. There's not even a prophecy to choose. They have to do something because they're literally the only ones who can. And in both stories, there's an alien species that's just like our own. They're trying to save their friends and family, and they're out exploring the universe and researching and doing science to learn more about the world they live in. Both of these stories are about life and love and connection and community and learning. The Nomai's entire culture is based around scientific advancement just for the sole sake of finding out more about the world, and the epitome of that is them trying to force the sun to go supernova just so they can make time travel, so they can learn more about the thing they detected a signal from one time. The entire reason you're in a time loop in the first place is that the sun went supernova on its own, activating their time travel mechanism. Project Hail Mary forces those who already enjoy science and discovery to use their talents to save the world, whether they want to or not. After Grace discovers how astrophage breed, Strat takes no time in getting him on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean, so he, or more realistically, his knowledge and expertise, are always on hand. In the book, they also do whatever they can to give humanity a better chance at survival. Consequences be damned. We need to get a ton of astrophage. What if we paved the entire Sahara Desert? We need to protect ourselves from the cooling that's happening in the Earth. What if we purposefully increase the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere? There's an urgency to the work done in Project Hail Mary that isn't a factor for the Nomai, however. They're always conscious of the impact their research may have because they have the time. The Ash Twin Project, which is what creates the time loop, activates only in the event of a supernova or in the event the Ash Twin Project fails. They've created failsafe as they should when they're trying to induce a supernova. They also use materials from Timber Hearth to create the Ash Twin Project, but they make sure to leave enough for the burgeoning four-eyed species that they find in its geysers. Once you, as the hatchling, disable the Ash Twin Project, thus ending the time loop, the urgency returns since this is your only shot at getting to the eye of the universe. We get tons of information about the Nomai also through their writing, their mentors, their families, their partners in science and in love, and their thoughts on the world. It's clear that there is community with the Nomai. Even if they're engaging in dangerous tasks like time travel and supernovas, that they care deeply about each other. In Project Hail Mary, that's not the case at all. Both Grace and Strat are portrayed as these kind of lone wolves. It's emphasized for Grace that he has no family, no romantic partner, and basically no connections outside the kids he teaches, and for Strat, her work is her life. She's in charge of the plan to save the world, after all. We have this super clinical approach to saving the world for the sake of everyone around them, but none of those deep connections that exist for the Nomai or the Hearthians in Outer Wilds. And then all of this contrasts with the Echoes of the Eye DLC for Outer Wilds. So I mentioned that I got Outer Wilds deja vu during the Petrovoscope scene, but the first time I got it was actually when Grace and Rocky first interact, and Rocky hits the wall a little bit too hard and scares Grace. I recently finished the Echoes of the Eye DLC, and there's a comment I've seen around on the internet a few times about it saying, "You are afraid of what you don't understand." I'd read the book. I knew that Rocky was cool and awesome, and after that little jump scare in the movie, I wasn't scared of him anymore. I was hoping that experience would help me get through Echoes of the Eye, but it didn't, unfortunately. I was too scared and I had to watch a playthrough until I saw a jump scare in the playthrough, and even then I had to rely on walkthroughs for a lot of the scary parts of the game, but I did do it. I did beat it, so yay me. With Echoes of the Eye comes the introduction of a new species that predates both the Harthians and the Nomai. This species was the first to see the signal from the eye of the universe and go after it, decimating their homeworld to build a ship called the Stranger that allowed them to do so. They ended up learning that interaction with the eye would cause the destruction of the universe, so they blocked off its signal and built a simulation of their homeworld to live in perpetuity. This is a species that ends up so scared of the ramifications of the eye that they close off its signal entirely in the hopes that nobody else ever discovers it. They're the opposite of both the Nomai and the humans in Project Hail Mary. They don't want to explore for the sake of exploring if what they discover is detrimental to themselves, and they don't want to put themselves at risk for the sake of others. Through the portraits on the Stranger, we know that there were families living there, but their method of protecting those they loved was complete isolation and ignorance, living in a literal simulation of reality. Both how Project Hail Mary and Outer Wilds deal with how people cope with new knowledge, especially knowledge that something poses a direct threat to us. How we fight it, how we try and protect ourselves, and how we overcome and save ourselves, or how we accept it and move on. They also both show how our connections can give us strength no matter how long or strong those connections may be. Whether it's through our communities, going through the same experience as someone else, or just knowing about and learning from others, those connections can give us the strength to do things that we would never be able to do on our own. I really liked the Project Hail Mary movie, although my reasons for liking it are definitely different to why I like the book. Either way, I think that playing Outer Wilds and watching Project Hail Mary in short succession does something to your brain chemistry more so than either one individually. So if you want to break your brain a little bit, I really recommend doing that. However, if you've already watched this video, I'm hoping that you've already watched the movie and played the game, so that might be moot. If you liked and enjoyed the movie, I do highly recommend the book. Like I said, there are so many details that got cut from the movie that really fill out the world a little bit more. You also get more Rocky, and he's way more human in the book, even though he's an alien. I really hope you enjoyed this in-depth analysis and are ready for my next video to be something stupid like how to grill the perfect cheese. I'll see you in the next one.